Welcome to Deep Dive Daily.
Good morning. Good morning to you, Andy, and good morning to Mr. Russell Westbrook for creating the most chaotic 15 seconds of the night last night that flipped things in favor for your Timber Puppies and my Timberwolves +2 preserved thanks to that.
Never in doubt.
Never in doubt. We're gonna start by recapping that game because it was full on. Like that game was full on uncut meth. Like the overtime periods in particular were just absolutely insane. And then after we comment on that game, we'll talk a little bit about award implications. Little brief recap of some of the commentary from Mr. Zach Lowe, who's back in the podcasting space with The Ringer. We did a whopping 2-hour podcast with Bill Simmons yesterday that covered a staggering amount of ground, but there were some pretty key takeaways in there, and he is, of course, an opinion shaper among the voting bloc. So I want to talk a little bit about his thoughts on awards, and then we'll go through current thoughts on the NFL draft. Sound good?
I like it.
Good deal, man. Any kind of golf you want to get off your chest before we get started? By the way, who is your one and done? Did you decide yet?
Don't know yet. It's only Wednesday, bud.
When does it get finalized? Because I want to have something to follow along on a shit tournament like this.
Usually before like an hour before. I don't know. Like we always put it in Wednesday night. It's Wednesday, correct?
Today's Wednesday. Yeah.
Okay,
today's
Wednesday. I do write a one and done. I do write a one and done article every week that's free over at Betsperts Golf. Let's see who I think I said I like Rico Hui, Keegan Bradley, Daniel Berger, Keith Mitchell. It's a tough week. Laid it out yesterday with Noonan. Last week there's an archetype. Bomber, good hands around the green, long irons. If you have 2 of those 3 things, you're probably going to compete. If you have all 3, you might be able to win. And it kind of panned out. Minwoo plus the good golfers were at the top. Tony Finau couldn't putt, so his long irons, long bombing and around the green didn't matter because I don't know if you caught this, he missed a putt from about 3 inches. He did the thing where he leans over to tap it in, and I think he caught the putter on the ground. The ball didn't go in. I mean, literally like that far from the hole. And it counts as a stroke, which is pretty rough. But this week, much more difficult with the heading down to TPC San Diego. So San Diego, San Antonio. I bet Keegan,
I was going to say they're in San Diego. I've never even heard of TPC San Diego.
I bet Keegan Bradley, because he is a perfect fit here, good ball striker. I bet Mav McNeely. I bet Rico Hoey, because I'm going to bet Rico Hoey when he's 100-1. Calhoun's on him too, so maybe some good vibes for Rico. Maybe he gets into the Masters.
I dig it.
Ryan Gerard, a little bit of a bomb too at 85-1, and then attacks. I have attacks on Ben Griffin. I bet him a lot. I bet him in the fall. I bet him in the spring. If he wins to get into the Masters and I'm not on him at like 50-1, I'll walk into a lake. So don't bet Ben Griffin, but I did.
Okay. Well, a couple of notes from. I'm glad you're supporting our Ryder Cup captain Keegan Bradley. I'll go to war with you there. Let's get a little momentum for our boys.
You're a Northeastern guy.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, let's talk a little NBA. Going back to last night's 2 major consequential contests, the Grizzlies just laid down at the death, and the 8 made free throws down the stretch for the Warriors to win and cover, which was annoying. Glad they won, but annoyed that they covered. Grizzlies, if they could have just made any of those shots down the stretch to get inside the number, would have appreciated it. But good luck tomorrow, Grizzlies, as you try to arrest this free fall against the Heat. The other game was absolute insanity. If you haven't already watched the clips, and if you did watch the clips, I would try to find more than just the clips, because like the last 4 minutes into OT1, into OT2 it was pure uncut crystal meth. It was so fucking wild. But the whole arc of the game in the market is worth commenting on. So when we recorded yesterday, I had mentioned I had already played Timberwolves. It had moved. Part of my play on the Timberwolves was I felt like since they had already announced their official injury report, I didn't think there was much of a chance that the NBA was going to swoop in and deliver suspensions in the interim, but they did. And so Naz Reid was unavailable. DiVincenzo was unavailable. And I'm got throw my hands up like, thanks for fucking nothing like that. What a fuckaroo that they
Can we take a time out quick before we
go ahead.
The suspension seemed light, right?
They were late and they were late.
Are they encouraging fighting? Is that
I mean, it got a lot of social currency. If the suspensions took so long to get there because they were fact finding, one wonders what were the fact finding? How popular was this fight before we decide how many games to give these guys?
Yeah, it's still getting likes and retweets, guys. Let's push off this hearing for two more hours.
Yes, but anyway, it was a late announcement of the suspension for the guys for the Timberwolves in particular, and it really affected availability for that game. Thankfully, Jamal Murray was also on the wrong side of questionable, which was also part of the handicap, which got me back into CLV positive at the close. But you know what? That didn't last long, Andy, because the Nuggets raced out to like a 21-7 or 21-5 lead. Like it looked like the Timberwolves just weren't going to show up. They claw their way back in. They make it a game by halftime. And then the second half, it was all Timberwolves until the start of the fourth quarter, where the Nuggets really pressed hard on Jokic to just keep going. We need you. He was absolutely gassed, and they kept pushing on every ball ball in his hand, down the court every single time. Set a screen, make a play, carry us, Jokic. It was absolutely insane in the fourth quarter. He gets them back into the lead. Timberwolves claw back. The sequence that sent it to overtime was insane because it looked like the Timberwolves had it. In overtime, the Timberwolves looked like the better team, but the Nuggets continually got a favorable whistle. Every ticky-tack contact sent them to the free throw line. The absolute, I would say, Ant was ridiculous in the clutch, like truly ridiculous. Every single shot he took went in, no matter how. Not every single shot. What's it called? Hyperbolic. Thank you. But he was taking insane shots that had no business, and they were going in. I do want to point out that the clutch market got completely nuked while this game was going on because it's a dumb award. You have to actually be in the clutch to accumulate. Yeah. But you have to be in the clutch to accumulate stats, which means a guy like Jokic can go 2 months without having a clutch game because the Nuggets are either winning by so much or not in it that there's no clutch. And then a game like this with 2 overtimes, every single minute is clutch. And so, there was just a mass accumulation of volume in the clutch for Jokic and Anthony Edwards. But the problem my problem with Jokic's clutch performance compared to Ant's was he was only playing on one side of the court, man. Like he picked up his 5th foul at the end of regulation before overtime. And it literally was like he brushed his hands and was like, all right, guys, okay, I'll handle the offense. Good luck on defense, because he was a ghost defensively for the entire 2 overtime periods that I watched. Who wasn't a ghost defensively? He was everywhere. Was Russell Westbrook. He was playing so hard, and he eventually he had the consequential moment of the game as the Nuggets were up 1, again with a 12-0 free throw advantage to that point in the 2 overtime possessions. He gets a steal. A beautiful deflection, steal, runs it down. Instead of just dribbling it into the corner and killing the last 7 seconds of the game clock, he goes for the layup. Guess he wanted the cover. He misses the layup. 7 seconds left for the Timberwolves to put together some sort of offense to try to win. They get a shot to Alexander Walker in the corner. Russell Westbrook closes on him obscenely aggressively, like hilariously aggressively. And I guess if you've gone through 2 overtime periods and you haven't been called for any of your fouls, it's going to lull you into a false sense of security that the refs just aren't going to penalize you for anything. And so Russell Westbrook flies at Alexander Walker with absolute reckless abandon, wipes him out, and of course gets called for the foul. 3 shots, the first 2 go in, the last one misses on purpose. The Timberwolves win by 1.
I do like a miss on
amazing
purpose.
It was amazing. So Big implications seating wise. Timberwolves and the Warriors help themselves in terms of moving out of play-in territory. Grizzlies are trending directly for the 7-8 game. Clippers kind of in that mix as well. One of the Clippers, Timberwolves, Warriors is going to be in there. For my money, it's still probably the Timberwolves, but maybe the Warriors. Very, very tough to call. Warriors have two really, really important games coming up this week. Tomorrow they play the Lakers, Andy. You're going to tune in for that one? I would hope so. That's a must watch.
It's going to start at like 10 p.m., Drew. Of course I'm not going to turn on.
It's going to be so good, man.
It's going to start.
Lakers Warriors is going to be must watch tomorrow. And then Warriors at who do they play Friday? Denver Warriors Friday. So these next two games for the Warriors make or break their Pacific chances, their chances of avoiding the play-in. And I would say they are must watch. The clutch player of the year market, I mentioned, got nuked. We just want to kind of comment on that very briefly here. The current clutch points standings. Okay. So clutch in general is a volume production in the clutch award, typically. At least it has been the last 2 years, which is the only 2 years they've given this. Currently, your volume leader for clutch is Trae Young, 152 points. Number 2 is Anthony Edwards, 148. Brunson is sitting third, 145. Jokic is sitting fourth, 131. Now, Brunson has done this in far fewer minutes than Jokic, Edwards, and Young. So his points per minute in the clutch are substantially higher. His shooting in the clutch is better. His usage in the clutch is absurd. Jalen Brunson's usage in the clutch is a absolutely insane 45%, which effectively means the Knicks get the clutch and they just say, Brunson, save us, Brunson. And he does. And they are currently 16-8 in their clutch games, as opposed to these other teams, which are all kind of in the 500 range. Trae Young, a game under 500. Anthony Edwards, 4 games under 500. Jokic, 3 games over 500. 4 games over 500. So Brunson, 16-8. The only kind of standout clutch is still him. I think he will still win, even though we've seen his odds absolutely, start to slip correctly, because he's just out of mind of the voters. And my general thought is he will come back. I think he will still try to play 3-4. I think he'll try to play 4 games so that he can be considered for all NBA still, since that's such an important award. And if he's in the mind of the voters, if he's doing anything, I don't even know if he needs to accumulate clutch points or volume. I think he just needs to be on the court and in the mind of the voter. And I think he'll win this award. But last night was not good. And it just points to the absurdity of this award, where you can have a double overtime game where, after 2 months of having 1 minute of accumulated clutch time, you get 15 in one night. and all of your volume comes in one spot. So I don't know, man. I'm holding Brunson at this point pretty aggressively. I'm against Jokic. So last night was pain and torture. Thank God the Timberwolves won. But yeah, it's gonna be a sweat down to the death. Did you catch any of Zach Lowe and Bill Simmons commentary?
Just the clip, like the same way I watch the Oscars. I catch it in the clips that are posted on social. Obviously, Zach Lowe's very well respected. It was a nice coup for the Ringer. And I guess I did kind of track the fact that he talked about awards, and then those awards markets crystallized.
Steamed like motherfuckers, yeah.
Yeah. Especially, MIP was the big one, I think.
MIP was the big one. I need your opinion on what the fuck was going on with something. You know how you go to Bookmaker looking for awards bets sometimes and there's just nothing?
Yeah.
And that's like most days? Like most days. It's like, hey, I wonder if there's awards markets up. No, there's not. Well, to my surprise, 10 a.m. yesterday, what the hell? They're taking $1,000 clicks on Defensive Player of the Year and Most Improved Player, like out of the blue. I scrape prices for these awards markets all the time, just because to me they reflect the most true kind of price, because they take $1,000 or more. In the case of MVP, at some points they were taking $5,000 a click, and they'll let you rebet, which means that you can actually accumulate, a position of meaningful volume there without whatever stupid games you have to play on the legals to get that sort of thing. I don't even know what that Wild West looks like anymore, trying to get awards bets down at the legals, but I know it's not easy. So, consider me surprised when we jump from February 25th was the last day you could make a bet on Defensive Player of the Year, the Wemby, the day that Wemby went down was the last day you could make a bet on Defensive Player of the Year. The date the All-Star break ending was the last day you could make a bet on Most Improved Player. Why they went up yesterday is a fucking mystery. Do you have a guess? Somebody important asked for it, and they just said, "Okay, sure, we'll put up some numbers." Like what in the world possessed them to do that yesterday, right before Zach Lowe came out with his kind of a market shaping opinion?
Now that's something I wonder if it is a case. If somebody who is putting lots of money into the market and has a contact or some sort of VIP host at a sports book, they'd be like, "Hey, I have opinions on this market." And maybe it's even the case where, like, you tell us who you're going to bet, and then we'll put the market up. And,
sure,
we might give you 10 cents worse but we won't give you 50 cents worse because you're doing us a solid here. It's the same thing plausible. You hear. Like when you hear the old stories on, you listen to Spanky's pod or any of the old stories from the old guys where it's like, we knew this guy was going to beat us and we'd give him a bet, but then we'd move on his number.
Yeah.
We were happy to take the information. And I wonder if that was the case where they said, "Well, we'll take your bet. We're going to move it, and then we're going to move it even more."
Well, they just left it up.
That was the steam.
Well, so they opened the market for everyone. They left it up. They were taking again $1,000 a click on DPOY and MIP. They opened Draymond -150 for DPOY, Evan Mobley +110, and those were your only two options. There was no Lou Dort to be seen. On the MIP, they put up three guys. They had Austin Reeves, Cade, and Dyson. Why Austin Reeves was in the mix was kind of funny, but between Cade and Dyson, it was -140 Cade, +101 Dyson. And so you're looking at this, you're like, huh, why? Well, that's wild that they did this. And then literally 30 minutes later, the BS report with Lowe drops. So start playing it. Market goes down, I'm sure because of that. And then, you get through about 20, 30 minutes of it and they're off, they're stopped. They're not talking about players or awards anymore. And the market goes back up. Get to about 50 or an hour into the pod, and then they get real serious about Dyson Daniels is clearly the most improved player. Like both, like Simmons, who is a voter, and Lowe, who is no longer a voter but carries a lot of weight with his opinion, are both like, I think the Cade Cunningham, improved is overstated, and Simmons saying I'm going to vote for Dyson Daniels, and then then it was the Dyson Daniels hype machine just cranked up into max power, and then he followed that with an incredible first half against the Trailblazers. So his price flipped from +101 to -180 over the course of what I could best tell you was about 12 clicks. So somebody got about 12K in to Dyson one-way action. I think they pretty much closed the market when basketball started. I haven't checked to see if it was open this morning, but that whole exercise was like, what in the world happened? Does some junior bookmaker have to answer some serious questions about why he opened that market and why he took one-way action on Dyson Daniels on a random freaking Tuesday at middle of the day?
And to be fair, let's say it was 20 clicks. Let's say it was 20.
I think that's not crazy. I mean, it was yeah.
Two things. If it's bookmaker,
it's not going to spook. That's not spooking anyone there.
That's not a massive amount of money to them. And number two, we don't know what their liability was. They could have had some big early bets on Cade, and they were fine. They were fine taking some action and balancing the book out a little, because they say books aren't always looking to balance action. On future books are traded different. Again, if you listen to some of the podcasts with guys who've done bookmaking for years and years, trading a future book is a lot different. And
you don't want to take a position on that.
Even if you're willing to semi take a position, sometimes it's not the worst thing to lay off a little bit.
Well, as of right now, it looks like Dyson Daniels MIP is just going to happen. I don't know that it's like as certain as the market is making it right now, but the fact that that is sort of the conversation around that award is not good for Cade's chances. And the fact that Cade is in the same boat as Jalen Brunson is that he's out of the mind of the voter because he's not playing is not good. He's doubtful tonight against OKC. I don't think he plays. I think the calf injury sounds actually spookier than they're letting on. So I don't know if we see him again this regular season. He may just fade into obscurity. So Dyson Daniels is your most improved player for the time being. DPOY a little bit murkier. The Zach Lowe started to make his Draymond is my DPOY case, and Simmons stepped on him with a hilariously bad Lou Dort take. And
better nickname though.
Better Dortress is a good. I don't even think they brought up the Dortress, but the kind of
isn't
general
Dort like fourth choice? I thought it's like Mobley and Draymond. Why is Lou Dort even being talked about?
Well, so this is part of what I think is happening. I'm glad you asked that question that way. The other kind of tone of the podcast was we're not talking about the Thunder enough. We're not giving the Thunder enough credit. Like the SGA MVP award race wrapped so early that it feels like there's a lack of conversation around how historic the Thunder have been this year.
Maybe they should give the coach an award.
Wow. I hope that's where this is going. I hope that's where this is going. But like honestly, I think the conversation is like we need to be talking about the Thunder more. The big thing about the team is how good the defense is. Do we need to just pick a player as sort of the totem for the Thunder defense? And ultimately picking Dort would be hilarious because he's objectively and numerically like the seventh best defender on that team. And I mean, I'm being a little again hyperbolic. He's probably realistically more like the fourth best, and he's the point of attack guy, so his role is super fucking important. Don't get me wrong, but he is not as good for that defense as certainly as Holmgren, Caruso, and Jalen Williams probably. So Hartenstein too. I mean, those four guys, at least the first three, and if not also Hartenstein, are more important than Dort. But they don't qualify. They haven't played enough games, and so realistically, he probably isn't going to get considered. I don't think, and it's going to go back to people are just going to eventually land on Draymond, which opens the door for, well, how do we talk about the Thunder? How do we give this team more credit? And yeah, if you need some notes, the Thunder are about to finish with the most historic net rating in all of basketball, which is insane. They're about to finish with the best ever, Andy, record against the spread. Did you know that?
Feels like that's already locked in.
It's pretty dang close. They could obviously not cover their final 4 or 5 games, 6, 7 games, and it's going to get
even just a 50-50 here.
Yeah. So here's some numbers for you. Ready? The Thunder on average this year have been 8.8 favorites. Okay, that would be in the top 10 all time in terms of just like respect. How much better are you than the average team? Like that is in the top. Ironically, last year's Celtics are in there. This year's Celtics have even higher average spread, which is hilarious. And this year's Cavs are in the mix too. Even with the very aggressive price point that they've been in market all year, Andy, they are 66% against the spread, which would be the greatest of all time, narrowly edging out the 2003 New Orleans Pelicans.
I would have never. You could have given me 26 guesses. I might not have even guessed the correct franchise.
That Pelicans team average spread was like 500 or something like that. Yeah, if you look at only regular season, they narrowly are edging out the 2000 era Milwaukee Bucks one year were around average spread of a pick 'em, and they They got close to 66%. So no, they're on the precipice of setting all-time records, not just for being great, period, but for being great against the spread, which I'm yeah, there's going to be a pivot in the discussion to where we need to give these guys more credit. How are we going to do it? And
well, you know,
I really
they're
hope
not going
that
to talk.
trickles
They're
into
not going
Coach
to
of the Year.
talk gambling. For the most part, I don't think a lot of the awards are the voters are going to be like, "Oh, we got to talk about their ATS record," but
Sure.
but it kind of translates into other really high level, not high level, but like low level stats, I guess, as far as like just win differential, point
Sure.
differential. Because if they've been, 8, 9, 10 point favorites on average, and you look at like just how often they're winning and by how much, I think that might translate to
My takeaway for all of it is there's
so well coached.
that we're still early. We're still early on a lot of this. Like I can't there will be a reckoning where people are like, all right, I'll take the Lakers against the Thunder, and the Lakers get swept, and people will be like, whoa, the Thunder are good. You're gonna be like, surprise!
I do like that it came to fruition because 2 years ago, we were talking about this and be like, man, they're kind of putting a collection together, and it's going to take a bit. It's kind of like
it didn't take as long as we thought.
Honestly, it's probably a year ahead of schedule.
Yeah, they are absolutely ridiculous, and hopefully their coach gets a little bit of recognition from all that.
Honestly, he's just so good. Any bets for tonight? I've got nothing in the queue besides golf right now. I
laid 13 with the Thunder tonight. The suspensions for the Pistons are bad news for them trying to compete. They're gonna be trying out some lineups.
Pistons.
They're gonna try it out. The starters for the Pistons are gonna be fun and feisty, but when they give those guys a blow, it's gonna get real weird. So no Cade, no Stewart, no Holland. Who else is out for the Pistons? No Sasser even. Sasser's been very good. Sasser's been good and important. So Harris will be back, but that's it. The Pistons are in deep trouble. So, all right. Current thoughts on the draft. I'll let you go first, and then I'll tell you. I'll bring up a question for you.
We're 28 deep.
You want to save it for tomorrow?
Let's push it to tomorrow.
I don't really have anything for tomorrow.
Block. I don't have a lot right now, but I have some draft talk for tomorrow. So we'll do NFL draft almost strictly tomorrow while I'm watching golf.
I have a draft hot take for you tomorrow.
All right, I'm excited. I have a couple ones.
It's kind of I don't want to say it's a very hot take, I think.
There's been a few more big name mocks that have come out. Zierlein had his, and there's starting to be some movement between, the wide receivers and which ones are going to go ahead of whom, and some of the offensive line stuff, some of the defensive linemen. So that's interesting because some people just take that as gospel, and some people realize that it's April 2nd or April 1st, honestly, and they're just, let's try out this fit and see what people think. Like, mocks aren't really serious until we get in 2 weeks from now.
Okay.
So we'll have draft talk tomorrow, and hopefully my bank. I was going to say I didn't bet anything, but I will say, because it is responsible gambling month, I'm pretty good with my bankroll. I've over the years you get better, you get smarter. I struggle with soccer. That is like my heroin. Like that's where I have a little bit of a leak. So I'm trying just not to open sports books today. I have all my golf bets in because I watched a little bit of the Real Madrid Sociedad match. I don't
live
know
over.
So they all hit through. And when they all hit,
you're like,
it puts me into this mood, but like, hey, remember that sick high I had yesterday?
Just all dopamine floods.
So I'm just looking through
frontal cortex.
What leagues are playing today? Where can I get some live overs in? So this usually leads to me losing like $2,000, $50 at a time in soccer over the next day or two.
EPL looks like an under. EPA looks like an under killing field today. Honestly, yeah.
Worst city. We'll do draft and worst cities tomorrow.
I love it, man.
Bring some thoughts on worst cities.
I will. It's
gonna draft.
because I'm driving up to do some skiing on Friday at the crack of dawn. So I'll be in the car during the normal deep dive daily. So I'll be fucking around tomorrow.
Yeah, it'll be a day early on the F around Friday.
For me.